our country is in deep trouble. I believe our Constitution is on the verge of destruction. We are at the threshold of fundamental transformation. We're here. It is the biggest story since possibly the Civil War. And it is probably the biggest story even beyond the Civil War, because the Civil War, everybody was in the open on it. Everybody was either pro-slavery, anti-slavery. It was open. This one has been hidden for so long. There are so many people involved in corruption. The corruption and the stealing of our country is so gigantic. Everybody knows it, but no one will say it. That when this thing is exposed, it's going to pull everybody down. It is going to pull these news organizations down. These news organizations don't have any idea what they're in bed with right now. Let me speak to the good journalists out there, because I believe there are a few. Those journalists who are at NBC or ABC or CBS or CNN. I know decent journalists over at CNN. Ask yourself this question. When they're done with Fox and you decide to speak out on something, the old first they came for the Jews and I wasn't Jewish. When you have a question and you believe that something should be asked, they're totally fine with you right now. They have no problem with you. When they're done with Fox and talk radio, do you really think they're going to leave you alone if you want to ask a tough question? Do you really think that a man who has never had to stand against tough questions and has as much power as he does, do you really believe after he takes out the #1 news network, do you really think that this man is then not going to turn on you, that you in your little organization is going to cause him any hesitation at all not to take you out? If you believe that, you should open up a history book, because you've missed the point of many brutal dictators. You miss the point on how they always start. In fact, you don't even have to go to the history book. Just, you know what? Go down with Oliver Stone or Sean Penn and go visit Chavez. There are actually people in Venezuela that think the people that remain speaking out against him should be in prison or executed. Oh, but that's a democratic republic, don't forget. So, the great news is I think they are losing so horribly. They are losing so badly. This is the sign of a desperate administration. This has never been done before. Never. Never. This is everything the left has always hated about Richard Nixon. And we all know how Richard Nixon ended. Now, this is an enemies list. This is a spoken enemies list. You can say whatever you want about me, that you don't like my opinion, etc., but don't screw with the facts. If you want to go ahead and tell me how Van Jones was not a communist, you go ahead and do that. If you want to tell me and explain how Mark Lloyd doesn't extol the virtues of Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, you go ahead and do that. If you want to show me that SEIU is not directly influencing your policy, you go ahead and do that. If you want to tell me that the former founder, the co-founder of the Weather Underground, Jeff Jones, is not the head of the Apollo Project here in New York. The Apollo Project that Harry Reid said wrote the stimulus bill. You go ahead and do that. But I haven't had those. I haven't had those answers. I haven't had you. See, the White House won't ever correct that. What they'll say is, well, this is just a smear campaign. I looked it up. Isn't it weird that that's exactly what the Nixon administration said about everybody at the Washington Post? It's a smear campaign. It's nothing but a smear by association. All they're trying to do is link us with people that are bad people. That's all this is. Really? Is that all this is? Is that all that was? You go ahead and answer those questions, and we can talk. It's weird how you'll sit down at the table and you'll talk to Hugo Chavez. You'll even get a book. Mr. President, can we have lunch together? I'll sit across the room and let me just hand you my book. Could I do that? Would you ever allow me to be in a room with you and my book that I could come over and hand your book and you'll hold it up and go, I'll read anything. Would you allow me to do that? I don't think so. You'll sit down with Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, but you will not sit down with Chris Wallace? You're saying Chris Wallace is less reasonable than the guy who says the Jews will be run into the sea? I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time getting my arms around that one. They can't answer the questions. They can only smear. You'll notice that the things that are now being circulated about me are things from my past. They're things that I fully admit to. Most of them, I told you a long time ago, I'm a dirtbag. I was a dirtbag. I'm a recovering dirtbag. I'm a dirtbag in recovery. I am what you call human, and I try to be better every single day. I don't always succeed. But see, what they're trying to do is destroy the individual. I'm not trying to destroy the individual. I'm just trying to get an answer out of the individual. What is it you believe? Because they hide what they really believe. What they really believe is in Marxism. They do not believe in a democratic republic like our founders did. They believe in a democratic republic like Hugo Chavez does. And that's the difference. And if you want to have that argument, if you want to say, hey, I believe we should go the Hugo Chavez way. I believe we should nationalize these things. I believe we should have health care that is run by the government because that's what they believe. Then make the case and join me, as George Washington said, on the battlefield of ideas. But they won't. Why? Because they know you're against it. Not just talk radio listeners, not just Fox, which, by the way, I think we're 2 times the ratings of all of the other networks combined. You don't want to have those people. Those people that watch those shows or listen to these shows, they're crazy. No, we're not.